Yeah. Hello, everybody. I am Jay with the Hesitation Station podcast. I'm joined with voice actor Mr. Phil Parsons. How's it going, bud?
Hey Jay, how's it going, guys?
It's going good. Now, Tank is out right now, but he's coming back. So, don't miss him too much. It's fine. But, Phil, so can you tell the people what you are best known for?
Probably for being in Dragon Ball because that's the IP I've been involved with that has got the biggest following as the
Yeah.
voice of the Saiyan warrior Nappa.
Okay. I mean, obviously, you've done a lot more, man. You've done, One Piece. You've done a lot of more voice acting roles that you want to put out on the table if you want to. That way, people know about what you do.
Sure. I'd say probably second biggest would be the role of Kenny Ackerman in Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
It was so long ago in the show. I've actually met fans goes, oh wait, who was he again? But he was Levi's uncle slash dysfunctional father figure. Was only really in the one season, season 3, but was an important part of that arc. And One Piece, I played multiple villains like most Funimation actors because that show just goes on and on and on. And now there's a big roster of talent, so you probably can not have to double cast. But back in the day, you know,
Yeah.
so I actually in just today I was in the studio recording some One Piece
Hmm.
character named Jabra, who I haven't done since I don't know when. It's been probably 10 years, maybe. Um, or yeah, something like that. And uh, I just recorded my other guy from One Piece, Burgess, just a couple
Hmm.
of weeks ago. So I don't like they're so close together because the voices really aren't that different. But
Yeah.
there are no scenes together, so hopefully it won't be a problem.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to where we talked to Mr. John Gamillion, or I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But he was Hawkeye from One Piece,
Hmm.
and he said, we y'all guys do the voices, and sometimes you'll do the voices, and it'll be like 2 years later, and they call you up and say, "Hey, we need you to come do this voice 2, 3 years later." It's just like right back where you guys started off. Is that kind of
Hmm.
what just happened with you?
Yeah. They'll play a little if they have it. They'll play a little reference
Hmm.
from a previous show. They didn't do that today, um, but I don't think they did. Maybe they did. I guess they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll pull something that you did, and but yeah, at this point, it might be 2 years, maybe more. Especially nowadays, the production cycle is so long. Even
Right.
a show that's in production. I'm in Fire Force, and we're finally getting season 3 of that show. That's 5 years later.
Yeah. I was heartbroken whenever y'all guys or whenever they canceled it because that was one of my favorite animes, and I was just like,
Yeah, I don't know the whole story. I don't think it was even canceled. I think it was just one of the casualties of production in Asia during
yeah.
COVID. You know, but I could be wrong about that. But we're all excited it's coming back. I don't know what
Oh
it's going to be
yes.
like because a different studio is producing it. But I've met a lot of fans at conventions and signings that are very excited that Fire Force is finally coming back.
I am one of them. Trust me. You also, I know that you also played in Tokyo Ghoul. You played as Renji as well.
Hmm.
Tell me about how that went. Was it any different from the Funimation or?
Well, that was a Funimation show.
Oh, it was. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know Tokyo.
almost
Okay, yeah,
almost all my anime has been with Funimation and now Crunchyroll.
yeah.
Um, so, yeah, it was great. Mike McFarlane, one of my favorite directors, very talented guy and voice actor.
Hmm.
They give a lot of their really important IPs to him to do the voice directing because he's really good.
Yeah.
And um, that's been so long. The only thing I really remember was one of the times where I was kind of doing my version of Kevin Conroy for the voice.
Hmm.
You know, it was sort of a when it comes to the Joker, expect the unexpected. It was that kind of read.
Very, very low tone. That was good. That was.
Yeah. So I did. There were a couple of shows where I had a large part where I played it. Like that was one. And the other one was a show called Blood Blockade Battlefront. My character in
Mhm.
that one kind of had that voice too.
Um, have you ever had a role? Well, first off, Have you ever had a role? Let me see if I can't put this right. Have you ever had a role to where you have felt emotionally attached to a character?
No, I don't because I don't watch the shows.
Hmm.
I think if you get into the storyline, and maybe you do, I do get upset. Most of my characters die, so I get upset when the gig's over. Kenny was a lot of fun to play, so
Hmm.
he served his purpose and he had a good death. But I was bummed I didn't get to do him again. I did get to. There was a flashback in season 4 where I got to be him for like a couple of scenes, but
Right.
um, uh, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I know sometimes I'll get emotionally attached to these, cartoon characters, these anime, and I'll still feel like when somebody dies off, it's just like, damn. Like,
Oh,
I,
stuff that I'm a fan of, absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So we can talk about your voice acting here in a minute, but first, I want to talk about Phil. I want to know about Phil himself.
Okay. What would you
Uh,
like to know?
Well, what do you like to do? Do you like to play drums? Do you like to play guitar? Stuff like that. I mean, just stuff that, you really don't get to talk about because I know going into a lot of these cons now, it's the same questions. So, we want to know about you.
Oh, there's not too much to tell. I'm pretty boring. If I'm not working, I just, I live like a kid in middle school. I play video games, or I watch a lot of streaming stuff, or hang out with my best friend. We watch crap we've seen a million times before. That's the only problem I have, and I counter it with fans too. Like I'll say,
Hmm.
"Well, have you seen this show?" And they're like, it's on my list. I've noticed it on there." But in the streaming age, I think it's great that we have all our content at our fingertips. But the downside is you often don't watch new stuff. I know I find because I can rewatch something I love, and I might be getting caught up in that.
Hmm.
Not even meaning to. You might somehow catch part of a show or somebody talking about it and it gets you in that mood and like, I'm gonna watch that again.
Yep.
Next thing you know, it's a week later and you forgot about the show, the new thing you were gonna try. Um but yeah, I'm not really musical anymore. I did take guitar lessons, played a little keyboard back in the day, but
Yeah.
um I mean, when I do live performing, I do sing some, but it's all kind of comedy based. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I wish I could say I went, rock climbing or uh, even antiquing or something, but
Hey,
yeah,
dude,
just
I'm the same way. I'm pretty
yeah.
boring, so don't. I'm just the dude with the podcast that has gotten lucky, regardless on what people say. You
Hmm.
know, when I'm first off, I'm a fan. A few of John, of everybody that's been on here, and I'm not going to deny that. It's the fact that I've gotten lucky, that we both have gotten lucky to have people like yourselves, voice actors, talented voice actors on here. And I'll get wrapped up in things, and like right now I just bought the whole complete set, and my wife is very mad about it. The whole complete set of The Walking Dead. And I haven't watched it in over 5 years, and I'm just jumping back into it.
So it's yeah, because I mean they're still doing spin-off shows, but the original series is done, so you can get the whole
Yeah,
set.
yeah, it's the whole set. It
Yeah,
doesn't
they
have
didn't.
the
They
spinoff
didn't.
though.
They didn't make that one for 4K.
No,
Um, but
it's
the Blu-ray's solid. So.
it's all DVDs. That's why it was so cheap. I think it was like $80 or something like that.
Oh wow. Okay. Going standard def. Look at you.
Yeah, yeah. I told you, man. I'm boring. I'm just a boring dude from Mississippi that has a podcast and has gotten lucky. That's that's about it. Um. So yeah, man. Look, going back to your characters, are there any characters that you have, I guess, that you have personally had a different personality, which you have obviously, because there's Kenny and then there's Nappa and there's people like that. But have you ever had like a feel to where you go into a what is it, a recording booth, and you're like, how am I going to do this voice? How am I going to differentiate these voices?
Um. Well, you don't get a lot of time to think about it. I mean, sometimes there's auditions for shows, and you'll you'll audition, and they'll give you kind of a guideline of what they're looking for. But usually when you get cast, you go in the booth and you only know when you get there what you're going to be doing.
Right.
Sometimes if the talent coordinator said, "Hey, can you come in tomorrow and work on this show?" and they'll tell you what role it is, then if the Japanese episode is up, I'll actually watch it ahead of time and see who the guy is and what he's like and get an idea before I go in. But I don't know. You don't really have time to go, geez, I don't know what to do. I guess there's probably been a couple where you start with a voice and you record the episode, and by the end, you and the director kind of figure out some things to do with it.
Yeah.
This hasn't happened in a long time. It was with Mike McFarland. He was good about that. But this is going back to the days when we weren't doing simuldubs and we were on such a tight schedule. You know, we were dubbing things that were already finished. That's how anime used to be in the States. You know, like Dragonball was first made the Saiyan Saga was made in the late 80s, you know.
Yeah.
So you already had the whole thing and you could take your time with it. Anyway, but you know, you might go back and re-record the first half of the lines because you realize, okay, now the voice is kind of what we want. So let's go back and fix what we did earlier because we were figuring it out.
So you more of go in, you try to figure it out with the director. I know that Nappa is more of a gruff kind of voice, whereas Kenny's a little bit more. He is intense, but he's a little bit more, I guess, lower. You would say,
yeah, not as bombastic and definitely easier to do because of that. And Nappa's curious because that was really an impression. You know, it was Michael Dobson in the original Ocean dub that kind of decided that in English Nappa would sound like a big wrestler because that's what he looked like. You know, the Japanese voice actor didn't sound like that. You know, if you listen to his original performance, it was that big, you know, it was that very low, kind of basic low voice Japanese guy.
Right.
All the growl and everything. That was Michael Dobson. As far as I know, brought that on his own. I mean, I haven't heard Nappa in other languages, so maybe he had, you know, some other reference, but and I never got a chance to talk to him, so I don't know if he came up with it on his own. But that every version of Nappa that's existed since then, there's been a few. I was not the second one. I don't know if you know the whole storied history of Dragon Ball's English dub, and I don't even know it that well. You'd need Chris Sabat or somebody to really explain it, but I know that I believe they tried it once in Canada, and it was back when they tried like westernizing the names. Like Goku wasn't even called Goku, you know, like they used to do anime back in the day.
Right.
And it didn't do well, and they didn't even finish the whole saga. Like it got canceled. They stopped airing it. Then they came back and was more successful in the 90s with it. And then at some point Funimation got it. And this is where I get very confused. I've read a detailed history of this and I still get confused by it because I wasn't there for this part. I didn't start working on anime stuff till the early 2000s. So, but I think at some point they did a dub where Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel were doing most of the voices. Like Sabat did Nappa, you know, when it was on Toonami. I was brought in the early 2000s when they were starting to make video games, and we were going to be on Cartoon Network, and it was getting really big, you know, and they're going to make DVDs. And that's when they said, let's expand the cast. And that's when I got the part. And literally I was in the studio. Sabat played a reference. He played some of Dobson and just had me, you know, do an impression of that. It was, I think they called it the Pioneer dub then. I don't know why. I guess it'd been on some Laserdisc. I don't know. The history of Dragon Ball in English is so convoluted. But I just learned at a con last month. I thought the English Nappas were Dobson, Sabat, and me. And Takahata 101 if you want to throw in DBZ Abridged, which I do because it was so big for Nappa. But I learned there's another guy, and his name escapes me because I hadn't met him until this con. But anyway, he apparently for one episode did do Nappa, and then Sabat replaced him.
Oh,
and I don't know if that was he wasn't happy with the performance or if it was just what I've heard it's that they were on a huge time crunch. They had to get done very quickly, and it was just easier to, you know, do it all right there. This is before texting. This is when you had to call actors and get calls back and figure out
Get
when
the email from AOL.
yeah, it was just I think it was probably easier to do. Anyway, so but that episode did air, that guy did. So he
Yeah.
legitimately was Nappa in an episode seen by people. So I thought, oh, so there's a fourth one, you know.
Mhm.
So we were both at the same con. But anyway, so Nappa was not, it wasn't like I went and read for a big, loud, gruff guy. But after doing Nappa, I felt like I got a lot of those kind of parts,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. The floodgates open, basically.
I think for me, it was at Funimation at the time. I came in at a good time. It was a small operation.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking for local Dallas actors. But the ravenous fans that would go and move to Dallas to be voice actors, you know, they were still kids. So this was just actors looking for work. I think I had a knack for timing my lines to fit the mouth flaps.
Yeah.
I think that some actors, very talented, would go in there and that part of the job really hung them up. They were used to doing stage acting, whatever, where you control pauses and timing, and you feel different lines. And it's like, no, you can do all that, but you have to make it fit this rhythm. And plus, it was before we had such sophisticated Pro Tools and stuff.
Yeah,
where they could move and squish and stretch the line to make it fit. So an actor really had to be able to kind of get the hang of that, and I just took to it, so they kept using me, I guess.
So you think that voice acting now is 100% easier than it was back then?
Well, I just mean specifically dubbing, the technical part of it.
Yeah,
I think is a little bit, at least that timing part, because like I was in the booth today, and that's how it is now for me. I throw out the line. I mean, I do what we watch when you do a take, you first watch it with the Japanese track first. Okay. You watch the scene to get it. You got your script. You can see where the line's going to fit, and you kind of mouth along. You figure out where you're going to do it, and then you throw it out there in the basic timing. But I just didn't feel like I really am trying to match it the way I used to, because I know I don't have to. I know the engineer is going to place it and make it fit. And sometimes it does. It's too slow or too fast, and sometimes we have to rewrite the line a little bit to make it fit. But I just mean that one part's easier,
Yeah.
As far as getting into, I think getting into it's way harder because there's so much more competition, and now it's a big corporate outfit. It's not like before when it was just they were working out of the floor of a bank building, and it looked like one of those Charlie Kaufman movies, like Being John Malkovich or what was the one with Jim Carrey where they could erase your memory? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
What was it again?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
First thing that popped in my head, I don't know why, was 23 that he played.
Yeah, that's another Jim Carrey movie. Well, the point is, in both those movies, same screenwriter, Charlie Kaufman, I think maybe the same director. But the point is, you had like these businesses that did like supernatural almost kind of things, like a portal where you could be in someone else's head, or augmenting your memory and making you forget certain things. Yet the sets they use, it looked like some third-rate dentist's office, Yeah. It wasn't like a slick, like in Total Recall, where it's a slick, sophisticated, state-of-the-art operation. It looked like, somebody that was going to sell you a timeshare. There's run down and everything. And that's kind of what Funimation was like then. You wouldn't have guessed they were, doing tracks for these very popular cartoons.
Yeah. You were in a place like that. Oh, welcome back, sir.
Oh, hello. I had a lot of fun out there antiquing, people be crazy at thrift shops, man.
Is that where you work, Tank?
No.
No, I was listening on my way back to the house. I still had it pulled up on my phone, so I am caught up. I am ready to go. I just pulled in, got swapped out of my work shirt, and ta-da.
Because we ain't gonna catch you up. You're on your own.
I mean, that's how it usually is. You leave me in the dark a lot. It's okay though, because with my shiny head, I can light the way.
I think.
Yeah, none of us have any hair. What the hell?
What? I used to, Phil.
Well, yeah, we all used to. I'm sure.
I know. At one point,
you should ask him how he lost it.
super glue, to put it in a short sentence.
Oh wow, that sounds like a story.
I tried to fix my door, and I cut the end of the super glue on the other side, and it spewed all up in my face. I had my eye super glued shut,
Oh my god.
glues all up in my hair, and I look at my wife, and I'm not freaking out. Now I freak out over almost everything, but yet I'm not freaking out about this. And I look dead at my wife because I have like one eye closed, and I look at her. I'm like, can I be an anime character now? Because usually they got their eye closed. But luckily things worked out. I didn't have to go to the hospital because I thought I would have.
Oh yeah, that stuff had gotten into your eye and seeped in. That stuff's toxic, man.
Yeah, yeah. So that was that was a fun night. It was
So
11:30.
Did it kill the follicles or something on your head, or you just have to shave it and wait for it to?
So the problem was is I didn't know how to take it out. So I was like, I grabbed a razor because it wouldn't come out as much as I was scrubbing it, and I was like, "Fuck it." So I just it's just one gulp going, and then I call him, and he's like, "You know, there are ways to get that out your hair." I was like, "Well, too late
Yeah,
now."
they make solvents.
Yeah.
He had shaved off half of his head, and then decided to call me. And I'm just like, there are plenty of ways to get that out of your hair. Right?
Okay, but it's going to grow back, right?
I haven't grown it back. I actually enjoy being bald. Believe it or
well,
not.
it is low maintenance. That's the benefit of it.
I will tell you. Speaking of Chris, is it Chris Sabat or is it Sabat? Sabat. I don't know how you say his last
I
name.
think it's Sabat, but
Sabat.
I've heard people say Sabat, but I think it's Sabat.
Well, I can tell you right now. I saw a I guess you wouldn't say a cursed photo. It's not really a cursed photo, but it was him with hair. And I was like, man, I'm so used to seeing him without hair.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird seeing him with just this little short hair. And I'm like, I get it now that I'm bald. Like, I get it.
Yeah. 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 Some guys, if it goes gradually, they try to hold on. I lost mine really young, so it went so fast that I didn't really go through a lot of that. And the only benefit to that was, I mean, when I was like 24, people thought I was 40, but the benefit of that is you get treated more seriously. You don't get that kind of condescension people can do to you when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, so I used to have hair like right here down over my eyes, and that was my thing. Like I even told my wife my defining things are my eyes because they're blue, and then my hair. That's the one thing. That's the two things that I had that was good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But once my hair was gone and I started balding, and then the super glue happened, I'm like, beard, no hair, I like it.
What it was is he wanted to copy me. He saw my luscious beard. And he's like, you know what?
You got a ways to go there, brother.
Yeah, I got a way to go. But look, let me ask you about this because I've never asked DBZ voice actor this before because I don't know if it's supposed to be steered away from. So if it is, let me know. What is your thoughts on a bridge? Because I know you brought that up. What are your thoughts on them?
Oh, I haven't watched it.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really watched much of Dragon Ball, so I feel like, well, you don't watch a parody of something until you watch the original, so you can appreciate it.
Right. Yeah.
But what I've seen of it is funny. I think that's really, I have no problems with it. I think it's hilarious, and I think it's, it's great to be a part of something that's so popular that it might take some time to do something like that where you do a whole parody. It's out of love,
Yeah. Yeah, the lawyers did not think it was out of love. I don't think.
I've only heard of one voice actor that had an issue with it.
So what how do you feel about the evolution of anime? Like, how do you feel about the evolution of how it's going, how it's influenced other voice actors, upcoming voice actors, and opportunities? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's clearly I've just, as from my vantage point, I've seen it go from this sort of very nerdy niche thing. Like I'm old enough that I watched old anime when it wasn't called anime. Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers, and I remember when Akira was brought over here, it was a big deal. But by the time the Pokemon Sailor Moon, Naruto era began, I was not into it. I was older and it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen it go from this sort of nerdy niche thing to very mainstream. Like, millennials definitely made it big. They got into it when they were kids, particularly certain shows like the big ones like Dragon Ball. But for Zoomers, it's just mainstream. It's You meet a Zoomer, they're as likely to be in anime as not. And if they're not in anime, it's not like I've never seen it. It's like, I watched a couple of shows. You know what I mean? It's almost like reality television. Like, I've seen a couple of things, and then some people were way into it. But it's like utility. It's there. Jay and I were talking about earlier. The thing I don't like is I don't know if there'll be another phenomenon like some of the big anime I just mentioned, because they're not on TV. They're not shared experiences. That's not just with anime, with everything, Yeah. I've been in a couple of shows the last couple of years that we're told, oh yeah, it's one of our biggest, most streamed shows on the platform or whatever. But I don't meet that many people at cons who've seen them,
Yeah.
A lot of people, oh yeah, that's on my list. I'm going to watch that one. Or, even if they do into it, they didn't watch it at the same time. And don't say anything. I'm only halfway through, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's with Dragon Ball, you had a generation of kids coming home after school and watching it every day.
Totally not me.
And it was, but there's a special attachment to that,
Yeah.
I was at a con in Florida last month, and a bunch of us were at dinner, and somehow the staff got wind that we were there, and Dale Kelly, who did the voice of the narrator, was with us, and we were all in the bar doing a big picture, and he just went into next time on Dragon Ball Z or whatever, and this whole group of dudes behind the bar just lost their shit, because the sense memory, because some people said, well, he was the narrator. I said, yeah, well, the narrator's in every episode. You heard him say that, hundreds of times if you were a kid watching the show all the time. You know what I mean? And it you could tell it brought him right back to being 8 years old or whatever, and watching with their friends, and the show's on, that excitement. Oh, the show's on, it's starting.
Dude, I totally agree.
Modern shows, because it's much more individual experience.
I totally agree, because like I said, I have that sense of both take, and I have the sense of professionalism when we're on here. But first off, we're fans. So when we hear the voices, it's like we go back to that nostalgia. When we hear the voices, when people do the voices on here, it's like, oh my God, we're little kids again, I mean, that's how it is. That's how it works. And probably hearing that guy do the voice of the narrator, those kids or those guys or whoever, I can understand it. Like, they're like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, you could tell. I mean, I've seen it before. I've done the Nappa voice and see people do that. I've had it myself. I was at a con, and James Marsters was there, because it was a Dragon Ball con, but he played Piccolo in that ill-received live-action movie from 2009.
Yeah,
wait, you mean Spike from Buffy?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, he played Piccolo, and he did some voices on Super and GT under a false name, because he's a Dragon Ball fan. He just did it for fun. So he was at the con, and normally at any kind of pop culture convention, he would be a really big deal. Anybody from, Buffy and Angel would be a big deal, but I mean, I've seen a lot of those lists online where they rank all the characters of the Buffyverse, and the top two, it's always back and forth between Spike and Willow. I mean, he is really a big deal. And I'm a huge Buffy nerd. So at the end of the weekend, he picked up a guy's phone and did a cameo for him. And he's holding the phone up. We're sitting there, and his body language shifts, and the Cockney accent comes out, and he just becomes Spike. And it was electric. I mean, my agent was sitting next to me, and he's texting me, because he's as big as Buffy nerd as I am. So he's texting me, holy fucking shit, right as it's happening. And the thing is, Spike is like 2 feet from us. It wasn't just the actor. Now we're here with Spike. When you hear the voice or whatever, something, it just makes it more real. It's like it steps out of the show that you love or whatever, the IP, and it's a little more real. So I used to not do the voice a lot at tables because I felt like it was, I don't know,
Tiring,
indulgent.
maybe.
Huh?
Tiring, maybe, or
No, just I thought it was indulgent. I thought it was
oh, okay, yeah,
to look at me and, like hammy or something. And then
yeah.
I realized,
Yeah.
oh no, that means a lot to them. And so I don't hesitate. And the person signing next to me has to hear me say something about 9,000, 12 times in a day if it's a busy con. But I was like, hey, sorry, I'm gonna have to say it again, because they want to hear it.
I mean, I
That
can confirm that.
that's one of the beautiful things about it, though, is like when we go to cons. Before we started all this, we'd go as fans, and then we started doing all this, so we got to go to more cons and actually meet everybody and everything. And going up to the booth, you get that surreal feeling like, hey, I'm about to meet so and so from my childhood. It's like reliving the past. And then you get up there and you meet them and you have a great interaction and they do the voice. And when all that lines up perfectly, it's almost like you get transported back to when you were 10 or 12 or whenever it was, and you're a kid again. You're sitting down. It's Saturday morning. You've got your bowl of cereal. You're watching your cartoons or your anime, and you have not a care in the world.
Fruity Pebbles, let's go.
Yeah, compared to what you have to deal with after the con's over and you go back home and now work's there, bills, and it just reminds you of a simpler time.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, to give somebody a second of happiness like that, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And it's crazy because I'm sorry, Jay, I have to say this. We like Jay has said earlier. We've got you on. We've had John Vermillion on, John Swayze, and all these other ones. And it blows my mind every time because I'm going to ask you the same question we asked them. Did you ever have any thought that it would get this far, that you would have as big of an impact on people as you do?
No, I don't think any of us doing Dragon Ball then understood that it was, that was going to be the way Star Wars was for us when we were kids, for a lot of kids,
Yeah.
I mean, when I went and auditioned for a Funimation job, I'd heard of Dragon Ball Z because I'd heard commercials on TV, so I knew it was a popular cartoon, and I was thrilled that when Chris stuck me in a part in it, but I really didn't know. I had no idea that it would be something that I'd still be talking about, or let alone doing the voice for 20 years later,
Right.
for video games and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was so out of it. I always tell this story. When we did the Kai dub, they changed the scouter power level reading to 8,000 to be consistent with the manga.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was changed in the first place, unless it's just that 9 sounds better than 8, which I think it does. For some reason, it just feels, bigger. Because 9's a bigger number, I guess. But anyway, so we did the line where I respond to, and Chris Abbott was directing this. He'd already recorded his Vegeta part, so he was like, he wanted to make fun of the meme. The meme was pretty big by then,
Yeah.
He goes, all right, I want to get another take, and this time I want you to go like really big with it. I was so out of it, I didn't even know there was a meme. I didn't even know the whole 9,000 thing. Yeah. So I just thought he wanted a bigger take on the line. So I just gave it slightly bigger, and then he's like, no, dude, I want it crazy big. And so I kept doing it, and he kept pushing it to be, because he wanted it ridiculous. It was going to be a joke outtake. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that's what he was doing. So I'm thinking that Chris has lost it. None of this is usable. Because by the end, I'm going, over 8,000, and he's like, yeah, that's the one. And I didn't learn until probably later. Oh, that's what he was doing. Okay. So I guess on the Kai, Blu-ray set, that must be in there as some bonus feature.
I love how you go when you switch to Chris. You go, yeah, dude. You go really deep.
Oh yeah, that's how when he's directing. I haven't been in the booth from directing a long time, but yeah, he's just. It's almost like being on a morning talk show with like a really cool DJ, because he just. Okay, that was good, dude. You sound great. He's always encouraging the actor,
Mm-hmm. Well, so this is the question that when you were talking about the cons and everything, this is the question I wanted to ask you to kind of segue into it. I guess you could say, have you ever had a person come over to a con and you just they resonated with one of your characters and you had that connection with them, like where it's like, hey, I really feel you because I'm that way too, or this or that or this kind of, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, I
Yeah,
get. I'm, I've got things I'm very nerdy, and I told James Marsters that. I mean, I said, look, I said because this was the when he did that cameo video. It was the last day.
yeah,
The con was over. We were in the back. We were in the green room. There were only a few of us, and I really went out of my way to kind of just talk to him over the weekend, just about stuff, and just to get a feel for the guy. And I said to him, I said, James, you had interactions with me all weekend. Did I seem like a fairly sane person? He's like, yeah, totally normal. I said, I'm glad because believe me, I was hiding it. Believe me, I could stand here and rock back and forth and start droning on and citing episodes by title, like any one of these fans, I kept all that in check and didn't fangirl out, but it is a
yeah,
big deal to meet you, so I understand that. And, yeah, when somebody is, it's moving too. When somebody really, um, they're not just they love the show or that this character was great. They get into no, I really like the choices you made and the way you did this line, and they get into your particular performance. It spoke to me, and I've had a
yeah.
few like that. You know, I've even had a few where they're actually specifically fans of mine. Like they can name obscure parts I've done. And yeah, I watch a new show. I don't read the credits, and I can tell if it's you. There are some fans who are so in tune they can spot the different voice actors when they watch the shows. You know,
No, I'm not gonna raise my hand on that because I want to say I can, because like I'll be like, I watched what was it, Cat Noir and Ladybug one time with my nieces, and I was like, that's Bryce, that's Meliodas.
hmm
Hold on, and I kept listening, and I was like, give me my phone. So I looked it up, and it sure
there
as
you
it
go.
could
You're
be,
getting it. You're getting
and I'm
the.
just like,
Surprise!
yeah,
Now you can go be an engineer. That's those engineers and directors, and their ears they're too good. They like I when I recorded for Sparking Zero, they weren't the studio told them they didn't have to. They didn't. Nappa's in the game, but they didn't give any new lines.
yeah,
They said
Yeah.
so you can use. They told me you can use old stuff. And Raleigh, who was directing, said I didn't want to do that. I wanted to give you come in and get a gig, get some paid for it, but also
yeah, yeah,
we don't like using. We want to use all the recordings from the same era, same equipment. To their ears, they can hear it. It bugs them. Because
yeah,
they listen so closely. It's hard
right.
for them to enjoy regular movies. They go see a big budget Marvel movie. They're
Mhm.
like, yeah, but goddamn, the sound editing on this one thing, or yeah, yeah, the little nuances will drive them crazy.
I will tell you, I bought Sparking Zero, and I am enjoying every bit of it. I raged at it. I raged at it today, but
I
other than
downloaded
that,
it. They gave us a code to download it, and I installed it. And it looks like you can't turn the subtitles off. Is that right?
I don't think so. I haven't turned. I haven't even looked.
I
You,
tried. I couldn't find an option. Then I googled it on Reddit. Plenty of people bitching about it.
oh, wow.
Huh.
It doesn't bother me at all. It's one of those
I find
things
it
that
very
you just
distracting when
ignore
they're
it.
on the screen. I don't like it.
Um, so look, I know you got to go. I know you said you got to dip. I guess the last thing I would ask, if you would like to, wait, what, what you need?
I have one question.
Yes,
Well,
Tank, you in the back.
guy, you are in one of my all-time favorite animes. It's only for a little bit, but you play Negan Grid Lewin in Overlord.
Overlord. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am a big fan of Overlord. What was that like?
Honestly, I don't remember recording that one. That was probably you got to remember I've been doing this for a long time now, and
Yeah,
a lot of
Yeah.
those shows when you go back 7 years, my busiest year at Funimation was probably 2018, around the time I was, I think, finishing up Blood Blockade Battlefront, did Attack on Titan. I was
Yeah.
doing a lot of shows then, so they kind of really run together. Some sessions I do remember, some parts I remember, but
hmm,
I don't specifically remember doing that one.
I got you.
Yeah. Sorry, I know. I hate giving those kind of answers when someone's a fan of something.
Oh, you're good. Well, I mean, realistically, it's understandable. I mean, you've been doing it for a good while, so I mean, we have trouble remembering what we had for lunch last week, so
yeah,
it's completely understandable.
Yep. Wait, what did I have for lunch last week? No.
See,
But yeah, I mean, it has been awesome, Phil. You have really made our day, and I'm very happy about it.
well,
And
you had another question, Jay. It's okay. I got a little time.
okay, cool. Well, the other question, I wrote them all down because unlike somebody, I do my research.
yeah, unlike somebody, I was at work today.
How does
I would love to be in The Walking Dead.
so
I did do a voice once for the Telltale. Remember the Telltale game, Walking Dead?
Yeah.
But I don't know if they used it because I've never seen that credited anywhere. I didn't play it, so I don't know. It was just some old man. But I thought it went well, but I don't know if they re-recorded it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna have on Gavin Hammond, which played Kenny from Walking Dead. What would be, I guess, the more particular times when syncing with your performances with the original animations? I know that you touched up on that a little bit and talked about how you kind of put everything, but everything's easier now. So is it just easier? You go in, you do your voices, go out.
Yeah, for one thing, it's so. I was alluding to the fact that back in the day we could take our time with stuff because we weren't on such a crunch. In the simuldub era, where we're just a week behind the episodes being finished in Japan, and then we're dubbing it and it's going up on the app a week, 2 weeks later. We're on that same schedule they are. We're trying to get it done every week, so. It's almost easier by the fact that they don't have time to massage it. But it's definitely the engineer with their software has so much. It's collaborative now. They're performing the character with you because they're making it fit. I'm amazed how they make it fit. And they'll it's just the software is better. The algorithms now they stretch and squeeze, and it still sounds like natural speech. But in the old days, they could do that, but it wouldn't sound right. They might do it to get you the timing in your head, and then you'd repeat it where it wouldn't sound processed. But it rarely does now. I did one line today for One Piece, I think, where we squished it, and they said, "Yeah, do the line again because it sounds a little fake the way we squished it." But
I had to redo it. So, this is gonna sound, I guess, conceited or selfish, but. Or whatever the word is, I can't think today. So I can do the voice of Nappa from Team 4-Star. I do it to Tank over here just to make him laugh sometimes. So my question to you is, how do you maintain a vocal health? Like, how do you keep your vocals healthy? How do you make sure everything's not going to break or you don't go in and scream your lungs out?
Oh, well, I don't do enough of it that I really worry about that, like, if I were a singer that was touring, then I've heard stories like Neil Patrick Harris said when he was doing Broadway, he hardly talked on his off days. It was all just soothing his throat to save it all for when he performed.
Right.
I mean, I did do a day a few weeks ago where I was doing maybe 4 shows in 1 2-hour period because they were all small parts. And unfortunately, Jesus Burgess from One Piece was early, and he's like Nappa. He's, all yelling and screaming and stuff. And then when I did a later part that was just normal talking, it was a little scratchy because I'd kind of,
it hurts.
Yeah. I mean, I know when we did the Z dub, Sabbath always saved the power up sounds to the end. You never did those early, because you'd wreck your throat after doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, I don't do any particular regimen or anything like that. You
don't drink green juice.
Yeah. Now, one time I don't remember what the show was. I was just playing a dad or something. But the first episode we recorded, I had a bit of a cold. Yeah. And it had there was kind of a scratchy, hoarse quality. And I thought, well, when I come back, that'll be his voice. I'll give him that quality. When I came back, I couldn't recreate it exactly My fake scratchy voice didn't sound the way my actual sick voice did. So I don't know what that show was, but if I ever find it, he sounds a little different in the first episode.
I got to find it now. It's going to be hard considering we don't know which one it is, but I'll find it.
But you see that I've seen that in live shows. There's episodes of a show where an actor clearly is sick and their voice is not 100%, but they just do it anyway.
I mean, hey, got to get the paycheck somehow. So, Tank, you got any more questions, bud?
I think I've done enough to put my foot in my mouth, so I think I'm going to pass it off to you.
Yeah, it's funny. I always thought when I heard bits of DBZ Abridged that I thought, wow, he sounds just like me. It's a good impression. But then I read an interview where Takahata said he was actually doing an impression of Michael Dobson.
I didn't know that.
And Dobson's Nappa is different. I mean, when I first got the job, I did an impression of the lines they did. But then once you start doing it, it kind of becomes your own version.
Right.
And I didn't find that right away. Like if I hear the first episode or two that I was in of Z, I never like it. It always sounds wrong to me. Like I always feel like I didn't get the voice down until the third episode, and I always want to call Sabbath because can we go back and just redub that? And
I bet he's like, no, it's good.
It's too late. It's out there. Will they reprint those discs? By the time we did Kai, I'd been doing it for years in games and stuff, so it just could slip right into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it sounded more like him or I don't know, but.
Well,
they do good. There was, I don't think it was Team 4-Star. Somebody did an abridged version of Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah.
I thought their Renji Yomo sounded just like me too. I thought that was good.
Well, I mean, they've gone, I mean, hell, even the Goku on abridged sounds pretty damn close. I mean, I'm not saying they're no Sean, but they got the pitch down and it was like, okay, I could see this as Goku kind of thing. Like they did good. I hate that they had to leave everything because they just kind of left on a whim, and I was like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah, the first big con I did was a Dragon Ball themed con, and Dobson was there. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and Sabbath was there. I was there, and Team 4-Star was there. Takahata wasn't with him. But had he been, I thought, hey, you've got the 4, known Nappas.
That would have been cool. That would have been a good TikTok or something that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So
guys, I was at a con last week with over the weekend with Peter Kalamas, who was the original Goku, or well, not the first one, but the one that was in the Ocean dub.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think he was the very, very first one in that first dub that failed.
Okay.
Yeah, and he wasn't even called Goku then; it was a different name.
Yeah, I may be butchering his name, but I know I've talked to him, and he just
he and I were at a signing in California some months ago. I never met him before.
Yeah, I texted him on Instagram, and he ended up having to go to a bunch of cons. So I was like, hey man, I get it. Like I told you, we're just two guys that just so happen to get lucky. So, but the last thing I would like to request is if you could tell people to follow us in any voice of your choosing. If not, then that's fine.
Okay. So I got it right. It's called Hesitation Station.
Yep.
And should I tell the Instagram handle then?
I mean, we're pretty much on everything. The link tree is right down there. So if you want to use that as an example, but we're on everything. If you want to say, follow them on
I'll
everything.
throw in a few different voices. I'll do this. Okay.
Okay, cool.
This would be an audio thing.
I'm going to use it as a clip that I can put up and then tag you in.
All right, here we go.
Cool.
Hey, this is Phil Parsons, anime voice actor. You may have heard me playing Nappa from Dragonball Z. Or Kenny Ackerman from Attack on Titan. Long time, Levi. Or Captain Leonard Burns from Fire Force. If a lie can save a life, so be it. Letting you know that if you want to get all the great interviews and all the great information, you got to follow Hesitation Station, the podcast where you learn a lot about what you love.